Good morning. So I'm just going to show you something before we start, because part of the invitation, I'm going to invite you to do this. You don't need to do this if you don't want to. Is about tension across the shoulder girdle, tension across the pelvic girdle, and particularly we're going to focus a little bit more on the shoulder girdle this morning. And I want to show you a picture of the shoulder blade. And I'm going to move that coffee. And nearly got you. Speak of tension. So here's a picture of the shoulder blade. And the most forward point of the shoulder blade, which is a bit that sticks out the front, is something called the coracoid process, which is here. Here, it's the bit that sticks out the front, and it also attaches to some muscles down the arm and on the underneath the pectoral, and attaches to your rib cage, 3, 4, 5 of your ribs. So just going to find that real quick. So if you put your hand on your collarbone, and you follow that along, and you'll come across a little platform here, and that's where your shoulder blade meets your collarbone. And then if you come down a little bit, you'll feel a bit that sticks out. And sometimes that's quite sensitive. Do you feel that bit that sticks out? Okay. Come up, put your hand on here and go wandering up here. You feel there's a divot there, so it sinks in. And you go up a little bit further, and then there's a bit that sticks out. Feel that? That's your coracoid process. Oh, I wonder why. So that bit attaches to some muscles down your arm, also attaches on the underside to your rib cage, and is also the front of your back. So if you have the idea that your shoulder blade is your back, shit isn't, it's your arm. But the back of you, the shoulder blade bit of you, is in fact one of the furthest points forward of you. Now you can have fun with this. You can give it a poke, and you'll feel your shoulder blade move around. So why am I saying this? Well, as a bovine mammal wandering around, the shoulders of a cow are on the side, right? They go like that, and the cow's like that. But as we got higher and higher, that presents a problem, particularly if we want to do anything more than this with our arms. So gradually, over time, the clavicle developed, which pushed against the shoulder blade to open it up. So in order for us as modern day working monkeys in this this particular social system we have, we're going to find a way of opening the shoulder girdle rather than giving in to tension. So the theme for today is giving into the floor to release tension. So as we go through the procedures today, just gonna see if you can imagine this opening and imagine the coracoid process opening up and away. And what you'll find is that the trapezius muscles, will release quite naturally as in response to that. And with this to this. I'll also do some stuff with the pelvis, rolling and opening the pelvis. I'm going to show you the couple of moves that we're going to do, or I'm going to invite you to do. The first one is in constructive rest like this. I'm going to get you to just palpate this so that this opens. So eventually you're resting the whole, and you'll see if I palpate this, you'll see how this side is now wider than this side. Am I making stuff up? Can you see that? Well, anyway, you'll get to play with that, and then eventually you're gonna flipper your arm out and ask this to release. Flipper your arm out and ask this to release, and you can do this all the way up so it's above your head. And what's interesting is that the arm muscle and the pectoralis minor will eventually just come into alignment with each other. Okay, then we're just going to rock the knees over to one side in opposition to this, and then rock the knees the other side. And then we're going to roll over onto the side and rock a little bit that side, rock a little bit that side. And then we're going to do a little bit of face down stuff. And the face down stuff, just going to come onto the side a little bit. And then as we come down, going to open across here and open across here. And just continue to rock from side to side to see if the pelvic girdle and the shoulder girdle will open. Then we'll come up doing a bit of crawling to the chair. Okay? And I'll talk you through this as we go. All right. Good luck. Oh, and I use my hands sometimes, so I might come up from this position to come and do some hands-on. If you don't want any hands-on, you just say, no thanks, or sod off, James, or yeah. But the first position, from the dart procedure's point of view, is to have the back of the head on the block and your knees up and your hands resting gently on your lower ribs. I'm just going to talk you through the points that are on the floor and to just have a mind for what those points on the floor mean. They are bony anchors that allow release. There is this odd connection between sensitivity and tension. So if you have a mind for how much tension is in your body, you just have a scan through. One of the ways in which you can undo tension is to bring your mind's eye to sensitivity, to what you can feel, what you can touch. And that connection to what you can touch will allow release. Also use breath. So on the in-breath, you can scan for points of tension. Then on the out-breath, just let that muscular tension melt away. So bring your mind to the bony point at the back of the head, which is the occiput. And that point which you can almost call your ponytail. There's a cradle of muscle around there, which is the trapezius and also the sternocleidomastoid, which joins to the sternum and your clavicle. And they're attached to that hammock at the back of your head. See if you can allow the bony point that is in contact with the earth to give permission for those muscles to release. Then bring your mind to the shoulder blades. There's points on your shoulder blades that are in contact with the floor. And see if you can allow contact with the earth and the weight given into the earth to give release right across the whole of the upper back and lengthening in the shoulder blades and that point in the back of the head. Then bring your mind to points of your elbows. And those points of your elbows on the floor, I'm just going to invite them to give you the idea of lengthening along the length of the upper arm and along the clavicle and along the forearm, so that the contact of your hand on your rib cage and the long finger gives you an idea of the length of your arm. You don't have to do anything except breathe and have the sense of releasing to lengthen. The anchor points of the bones, those bony points, they bring sensitivity to the system so that your nervous system knows that it's safe. And then bring your mind's eye, as you would venture through your structure, to the bony points of the pelvis that are in contact with the floor. See if you can imagine the idea of the tail and all the muscles that are attached to the tail just melting away into the floor. Giving way. And then you can bring your mind's eye to the 3 points of each foot on the floor. The heel, the point behind the big toe, and the point behind the little toe. And you can allow those points to give the foot permission to spread across the floor. And as the foot spreads across the floor, you can imagine the sensation of the whole of the front line releasing. And as the heel sinks, you feel the sole of the foot. Then you can imagine the whole of the back line releasing. And there is a sense to which these points that are in contact with the floor, although they're not actually moving away from each other, but there is a sense in which the musculature of connections across the system are lengthening. So in some respect, as you release across the pelvis and as the structure releases into the floor, all of these points are going away from each other. So there is, in Alexander terms, the neck is free so that the back lengthens and widens. Is it okay if I use my hand? It's not that you're trying to straighten your back. It's that you're inviting it to return to its innate pattern, a gentle curve that invites a springiness. Like a slinky with shock absorbers. Or you can let your imagination run wild about images of flexibility and buoyancy. Bamboo. Or the wonderful curves of the Golden Gate Bridge. And now I invite you just to let one hand be an active hand. And it's going to go exploring over to the other side, the other shoulder. And it is going to just have a little feel for that coracoid process, that bit that sticks out. I'm just going to give that a palpation. So you're going to really give it a gentle encouragement that all the muscles around it, and there are a few, all the muscles that are attached to it, just going to have an idea of lengthening. You can imagine the shoulder blade underneath that side also sinking further into the floor as a result. It's almost as if your hand is talking through the bone to the support system underneath, to the earth. And you can also let the fingers come back along the clavicle towards the sternum, so that you can imagine that lengthening from there. There is some universal movement in that joint, which is really amazing. It'll allow the arm to move above the head, it'll allow the arm to move in all kinds of different directions. You're just asking that to release so that the tension across that girdle is given permission to relax into the floor, to lengthen away from tension. And because this morning's theme is that, looking for contraction and expansion, just play with also the idea of how an idea of tension might bring that towards or close it in or squeeze it. So you can even squeeze the shoulder girdle in order to feel what that feels like, and then give back into gravity. Let breath also take that shoulder blade down. Yeah. And of course, the position of the shoulder blade is very, very interesting. This is the direction of the shoulder blade that points down. It's a triangle that points down. It's as if to say the shoulder blade is like a raincoat that drips down the back. And in constructive rest, here is a fun thing just while you're there. If you open your feet, so your feet are in a V shape with your toes pointing away from each other, and see what feels like your knees want to do. They want to float open. Now, if you turn your toes towards each other, there's a slight want for the knees to come towards each other. So see what it's like if there is a median point somewhere in between where the knees just want to be there. Interesting, Mr. Bond. Okay, so then while you're still imagining this opening across here on that side, just let the arm, the back of the hand of that arm, flop out and meet the floor. Yeah. And see what has changed in that position across the shoulder girdle right there. See what you can let go of as a result of that movement. Is it possible to invite more lengthening in the pectoral? Oh. This is a really interesting thing about this proposal. You feel your breath? That was really interesting. So the pectoralis minor is under there. It ties into the ribs, the third, fourth, and fifth rib, and can aid in breathing if it's not caught somewhere along the line. And then just let the flippering of the hand take the arm out a little bit further. So there's radial deviation of the thumb, and then when the knuckles come down, then the arm slides along into a radial deviation. No, other way around. Sorry. This is the radial deviation, and then that's the ulnar deviation. And as it flippers out, rather than thinking of this stretching out to the side, let your mind's eye come to the idea of releasing to lengthen, or that as the arm moves out, the sensitivity of the contact with the floor gives permission for tension to release. Notice as well that if you have your hand up there next to the coracoid process and you use touch to feel around there, the act of touching it will invite release. And you can keep flippering that arm up. And at some point, if that's as far as it goes without coming too far up off the floor, so note as well that as you flip her up, due to tension in the shoulder girdle, the arm will come up off the floor. Oh, awesome. We have got some supports for the arm as it comes up there. You feel that under there? Yeah. So just gonna put this under here. How's that? So this is going to be interesting. This, as that floats, you feel that? So the shoulder blade is going to move with the arm. Yeah. Yeah, this is a great exploration for how the shoulder blade moves with the arm. Yeah. And when your arm is out to where you're feeling it, imagine divots in your pelvis. So there is the pelvic girdle, and then there is the point that you have in contact with the floor. And you're just going to let one side of the pelvic girdle sink down so that the knees slightly move in opposition to the outstretched arm. Just a little. It definitely does not have to be an enormous movement. What I'd like you to imagine, or I invite you to imagine, is that your femur is sinking down into the pelvis as the knees come over to one side. So that you just feel that stretch across that diagonal. Stretch is the wrong word. That you feel the diagonal lengthening. So it's like the points that we were talking about earlier, how release allows lengthening. Allow the same thing. So as the butt on one side sinks into the floor, so you feel lengthening across the whole diagonal. And you can also, with your hand, just explore with your free hand, explore the divot in the pelvis. Let the feeling of the sinking down in the pelvis. Ew. And then sink down the opposite side of the pelvic girdle so that the knees come back up to center. And then you can flipper that arm back along the floor, and then let that arm rest on the rib cage. And just have a little feel about the difference from one side to the other. Now, I don't know whether this is the same for you, but it's certainly the same for me. Even though I have felt the release of that shoulder girdle on that side, there is an almost, I would say, a subconscious pang or desire or habit or pattern that immediately begins to re-engage that shoulder girdle. See if you can, as Alexander would say, inhibit that response. See if you can keep the idea of open pelvis or open shoulder girdle. And then let that hand on that side come over to the opposite coracoid process and begin to have a little palpitation. And what's great about this now is that you can observe what habits of the mobile arm are coming into play as you do an activity, i.e., exploring the clavicle and the sticky out bit of the other arm. See if you can just keep a check on how the tension across the shoulder girdle is interfering with your movement. And having an idea of the curl of the shoulder blade around the rib cage, so that as you play with that little bony outcrop, you can invite release of the muscles and release of the shoulder blade in contact with the floor. It can move. And then still encouraging that lengthening, you can let that arm flop out to the side. And you can experiment again with tension across the shoulder girdle and release across the shoulder girdle. So one of the interesting things to observe about the shoulder here is that the ridge on the back of the shoulder blade is tied into the trapezius. So as you see the pectoralis on the front releases, it gives permission for exactly. It gives permission for the trapezius to release. And then you can begin to flipper that arm up across the floor. And always coming back to sensitivity. So if you feel tension, ask the nervous system to see if there is sensation. It's one of the ways in which you can definitely tell whether a part of you has gone to sleep is through sensation or not. And then you can, with your free hand, you can have a little exploration of the pelvis. So there is the girdle there. You can feel the big top of the iliac crest. And then if you follow that round towards the belly button, you know, you'll feel that that crest then gets really lumpy there at the front. And then it dives down and there's another lump there. And if you continue on down, then eventually you'll find your pubic bone. But then somewhere between there is like a soft little divot. And that place in between, probably closer to your pubic bone, that place is where your leg actually joins your torso. So if you imagine sinking into there and then allowing the pelvis to rock very gently away from the extended arm. If you imagine that sinking into there, then it is possible that the large muscles around it will have an excuse to release. And then you can let the legs very gently move over onto the other side. So here we're just going to roll over onto the side. So you're going to look towards the outstretched arm and continue, 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 and let the knees continue, and then you'll find yourself in a kind of fetal position. And here we're going to play with some tension and release here. So there are three parties playing together here. As you lie on that outstretched arm, there's the shoulder girdle, the pelvic girdle, and this length right along the line that's in contact with the floor. So we practiced tensing the shoulder girdle and releasing the shoulder girdle. So just have a little bit of that, really just very gently, as if you're constricting the shoulder girdle, which is the sensation you've just been playing with, and then the lengthening of the shoulder girdle all across there. And then you can do the same thing with the lower part, the pelvic girdle. You can hold onto your tail as if you're holding onto your tail, and then release onto the floor. So you can imagine the bony part of the pelvis that's in contact with the floor, giving everything an excuse to release and relax. And here now, this is an interesting thing to play with. If you can imagine the length of muscle along the line that's in contact with the floor, you're going to constrict all the way along there. Just have a mind for constricting right the way along that line that's in contact with the floor. And you'll feel that there are bits of your body coming up off the floor. You'll also feel, it's possible you may feel a less sensitivity along that line that's on the floor. And then on an out breath, you're just going to give in to the floor and allow that to relax. So if you like, you can come and lie on the side. Yeah. And then just lie on your arm. If you fold your arm, you can just lie. Yeah, that's fine. Or you can use this even under your head. Yeah. And it's playing with the same thing. And just use the weight of use the planet as a support, as an always support. It's always there. Yeah. It's always there. So you can feel, if we go like this, you feel how your body feels safe. You feel that? Yeah. And if you tense all along the line that's in contact with the floor there, just feel a little bit of tension. And then on the out breath, you're just going to relax into the floor. On the out breath, ready? Take a big deep breath. Take a big deep breath. And then just release. Yeah. So that the planet gives you support. So the reason we're doing this on the side, we talked a little bit about this last week, Hal, is the idea of the sides, the whole girding your loins or prepping yourself along the side in order to get ready to do something. Well, here, what we're doing is we're just recognizing the tension along the side so that we can return to using the center as a means of support rather than the outside edges. Okay, so I'm going to look the other way and roll over onto the other side. And so you can have a little look over the other shoulder and let the shoulder girdle widen, and that takes you onto your back, and let the pelvis widen, and that brings the legs up. And then you're going to look towards the other arm and let the whole shoulder girdle widen so that rolls over onto the other side. You can also, with your free top hand, just give yourself a little rock. See if you can encourage your shoulder girdle to widen. So one of the ways you can do this is to have a mind for the way that the shoulder is in contact with the floor. The shoulder is in contact with then the clavicle that goes right the way across to the other side. And if you can think of your all those things widening away from each other, and the same thing with the contact of the pelvis on the floor on the other side. And then, tense up that line that's on the side, the line right the way across that's in contact with the floor. And also note how that affects the shoulder and pelvis when you do that. And then on the out breath, just allow that to release, to lengthen all the way along that line. And you can give yourself a little rock there. Well, now we're gonna have to move on because it's nearly time. I'm gonna come directly onto all fours and up into all fours. And while you're in all fours, you can imagine the arms coming into being received by the shoulder blades. And you can feel or imagine the femur, the upper leg coming into the pelvis, and you just wag that pelvis so that feels nice and released. And you can feel the top of the head being the thing that's directing this movement, and that the whole of the spine here is the core strength for the movement. So as you crawl forward towards the chair, the sides, and you'll feel the temptation to engage all the sides for support. But rather than thinking that, imagine it all arriving at the core. That the spine is the place where all these parts come to meet. And when you get to the chair, you can just let your forearms lie on the seat of the chair. See if you can always and keep returning to the line between the top of the head and the base of the spine. And that's like a very happy snake that's winding its way up into the vertical. And then you can swing the leg so that it comes underneath you. Yeah. And keep contact with the planet. Keep that idea of the planet supporting you as you come up a little bit more and swing the other leg under. And here, if you can spin the chair around and put your hand on the back of the chair. See if you can keep folded. And while you've got both of your feet on the floor there, I'm just going to move that for you. And just see if you can feel the freedom in your ankles as you just hinge in the middle there. So you can position your tail over your ankles so as your ankles just move nice and easy. They're happy ankles. Yes. Yeah, the whole foot will allow, the sensitivity of the whole foot on the floor will allow ankles to be happy. And free your knee joints up. Free your pelvis up. That's it. Then come up onto tippy toes of your fingers. And then come up to tippy toes. And then let the foot unfurl across the floor. And let the head come up. Very nice. Look up. And just let this go. Yeah. And take a couple of steps back away from the chair. And go for a walk. See if you can have a sense of the shoulder girdle widening, the pelvic girdle widening, and the spine coming down and being supported by the feet. So the foot is definitely underneath you. And so the pelvic girdle widens as a result of each step. And the shoulders drip long and away. Very nice. Nice. Thanks for joining.